All right, everyone, fucking relax. It's 9:04. We're like more on time than normal. Fuck pile. Look at all these people. Look at them all. Hello, everybody. Buff Mike, I think you commented on the video, but it wasn't in the live chat, so I can't see it. So if that was you, live chat it up. Dude, come on. You know how this works. We do this every week. Every week we do this. Today's episode, Ryan, brought to you by the United States Constitution and the First Amendment. Because, Ryan, the First Amendment is under attack. Everyone, we go into the show every week, Ryan. Like, all these people watch us every week, and there could be new followers. People might not know who we are. Have you ever thought of that, Ryan?
No, David.
All right. I'm Dave. This is Ryan. We talk every week about freedom. I dropped my pen because I'm so angry. I told Ryan earlier this week, there was a clip. I'm just going to jump into the clip. Normally I do a rundown of the show, but this show, everything on this show is about free speech. Today's episode, at least. I'm going to just jump into the clip. Ryan, I sent you a text that I have never in my life seen something said and been so angry. This is Ryan, it's so...
Tell me it's a Ben Shapiro clip, and I will fucking take my shirt off.
No, Ryan, this is a presidential nominee. Now, granted,
obviously not as serious as Ben Shapiro, David. Clearly not as serious as Ben Shapiro.
Hello, Buff Mike. Welcome back to the chat. She wasn't nominated. I'll give you that. People didn't actually vote for her, but she is nonetheless the presidential nominee. Let me put this in presentation mode. Let me share the screen. I don't have a producer. I'm sorry. I got to do all this stuff and hope Ryan talks enough so I can do it. Ryan, this is Kamala Harris. It's shared on my X.
It's crazy because David was never a talker on this program till like a few months ago, and now he just bulldozes me.
Well, because I'm getting so angry, Ryan. And then I got to do ad reads. It's a whole thing. Listen.
You don't have to. You could tell me the ad read, David, and I could do the fucking ad read.
Then I'd have to train you how to do ad reads, and then that's just more. No, I already have to train the producer. Now I got to train you how to do ad reads. I can't do it all.
David,
I read the chats.
Pay me then? Is that the problem?
I read the chats.
I can read the chat, David. I have the chat little green dot here.
What does everyone do here? I built the studio.
Built the studio. You painted a fucking wall and hung some shit up. You built the studio.
I painted 2 walls.
I am the studio, David.
You can see this part of the wall.
It's not even a full wall.
All the ad reads, all the production. I put this all together. Ryan comes on usually late every week.
I was early today. I had to wait for you for the...
Fuck.
Just keep throwing shots, Dave. I'll just wait for my contract. I will join the Jew, David.
This is getting.
I'm gonna open December 1774, David, and show you how it's done.
I just want to play the clip for everybody, Ryan. Can I proceed?
Yeah, sure. This
is Kamala Harris. Same team, Ryan. Same team. Here's Kamala Harris telling everybody they don't have rights.
Same team. I don't
he has lost his privileges, and it should be taken down. And the bottom line is that you can't say that you have one rule for Facebook and you have a different rule for Twitter. The same rule has to apply, which is that there has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites to understand their power. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation. And that has to stop.
Right. All these fucking people are allowed to just go online and say whatever they want. There has to be something done about this, Ryan.
Why did nobody punch her in the face, David?
That would be violent. We have to peacefully...
No, it's not violent, David. There was fucking wars. People have to... Yeah, I should be able to openly speak to millions of people. Crazy fucking idea. I know. I know that the freedom of the internet has this magical power that I can just click one button, share endlessly to millions of people if there was open algorithms, David. And if your fans actually allow the algorithm to push you and not pick winners and losers like some socialist credit score algorithm system built into the fucking apparatus that is the app, David. Apparatus, application, app. This woman is claiming to be democratic when the democratic power that she wants is that of the elitists. She wants the collectivism over what you were allowed to say on the internet, so that she can continuously, just like they always do in all, this is how they can fake polling, because the people they're polling are the only people they allow to have that point of view to begin with. So we'll eventually get to the point that we're all just little carbon copies of whatever they want, because the only information that I'll ever hear to program my subconscious will be pro Kamala Harris or pro government or pro anti-freedom statements. Freedom is slavery is literally 1984. It's in a fucking book. 1984. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is peace. I'm sorry. War is peace. Ignorance is strength. That's the motto of the party. The party. Do you know there's no like actual acronym D or R before that, David? They just know themselves as the party. We would say the collectivists, the elitists, the globalists, David, the who. This transcends party. This I'm not kidding. I don't care. You can throw me in court. You can fucking I'm not a tough person. They're not UK can jail me. We cannot have presidential candidates think it's okay to censor anybody on the internet without getting punched in the face right after. I'm sorry. It's anti-fucking American. There's literally a Second Amendment, David, to stop this shit from happening. And I don't care what anybody says. That's not an opinion. It's literally written in every document that's ever been documented since the foundation of this country. And she swore to uphold the document, David. This isn't anything out of the realm of possibilities, David. They agreed to the rules of the Constitution. I didn't force them, David. They joined public service. Now, I didn't force them. I did not force them to abide by the things that make them a traitor. Like what the statement she just said literally makes her a terrorist to this country and the Constitution and to its citizen. It's terroristic behavior. It's not a redundant statement, Google. United Kingdom, throw me in jail. You're tyrants and terrorists to freedom and people. You don't want you don't want us to be educated. You don't want us to be strong. You don't want me to be able to pick out your line of bullshit. You don't want me to know history. You don't want me to be able to understand basic laws like rule of human nature and all these other things, Dave, especially court documents. You want them so long that I don't have enough time to read them, David. This is a design, militaristic, scientific, psychological takeover of your life and your country, and they're stealing it underneath your feet. And you could say it's replacement theory, where they're going to implode us with immigrants. You can say it's the
like in the UK, Ryan.
You can take our men from us and you can put plastic in our dicks. You can make our daughters want to have a penis. You can chop off men's dicks and have them grow dicks and say that they're the same, not have dicks and say they're the same thing as people that don't have dicks. You could do all of that. You can put all the estrogen. You can have all the propaganda. You can buy all of this, all the ad revenue. You can do all the things that you want. You can censor me on the internet. You can take all my freedoms. You could say I'm a terrorist. You could say that voting for this guy isn't going to change the system while the system conglomerates against him to destroy him so he can't destroy the system. You could say that certain people are bad. You could say that influencers that are artificially generated on X, David, are stealing the elections with 50,000 followers. You can contrive any story you want when you have a militaristic apparatus plugged into the highest and most powerful form of government that's ever been invented in the history of all of humanity, because we have nuclear weapons and we also have a spy grid that's so good, David, that just the words that I speak orally can present things in a physical image on a digital screen through an algorithm that runs in the background of reality. And then I'm told that they're not using the Amazon sidewalk to engineer human behavior to feel a certain way, David. So then in 20 years, when we're like, oh yeah, we're just used to not having freedom, even though the people that died to give you freedom had to suffer things that you will always suffer. It was like, it's crazy that all the years of enlightenment bred such stupid, narcissistic fucking people. And I'm privy to this too. Such narcissistic people that would hand grenade the greatest system ever invented simply because we didn't know that it was being stolen from underneath our feet, because we were told to not care about the very things that you're supposed to care about, like history, religion, and politics, David. Just three basic little things. You know, just like the religion that predates history and then the history of the religion that predated the very history of religion. Don't worry about it so that you can talk politics. I know it's the bones of the poor, but I'd rather juggle bones in my pocket than empty phantoms of bones, David. Because if you don't know politics, politicians care about you. And regardless if you care about the politics or the politicians talking about the politics, They care about you because they want your vote, and that's why they will inject you with the poison. They will make you drink the GMO. They will have the chemtrails. We don't make enough money. This was like the whole argument on why you need to just stand up on the internet before they control free speech. This is Alex said this was going to happen. We don't have enough money to insulate yourself. Do you know, David, that you would have to roll your walls with paint that have metals in them to reflect the fucking satellite microwaves and the Wi-Fi beams and all? Do you know that? You'd have to have a brick building with specially lined floors. Do you know that, David?
Oh, you could use lead paint, Ryan. That would work.
Like, it's got to have gold in it, like gold flake in the fucking paint. Not for, oh, your room is beautiful. Oh, yeah, it's super beautiful. That's it. Rich people are just doing shit because it looks good, David. They're buying all the fancy furniture that's going to last generations because it just looks good, Dave. It's not because it's made of real wood and not just shit made in Bill Gates' farms that he bought. And then that's the other thing. They're going to feed you fake meat and say this is what meat has always tasted like when it hasn't. Like, what more? You have been socially engineered to just walk a fucking line. Listen, and then I have to hear at the highest level, if you think that woman having that ideology is good in any regard at any level of government, I have a rocket ship I'm going to sell you. This is not hyperbole, Google. This is the same shit they said while they were killing people in concentration camps and starving people in Stalin Russia. Cambodia, when they were killing people for religious freedom. The genocide in Cambodia. This is it's not exaggeration.
Listen, here's the thing.
Dude, if you play a fucking history video game at this, if you just pick up one page of a history magazine at this point and read it, you're more history educated than 99.9% of the people that fucking walk around right now and have some kind of opinion. I'm told to not have an opinion because I'm an expert, but everybody I know thinks they know history because of fucking TikTok. But they don't see this, but they see a clip like this and don't see the danger in the history that they allegedly know. Do you know that this country's ran by communists, David? Do you know that? They told you that it happened. Does anybody know that? The whole government's ran by communists. McCarthy was right. That was a conspiracy too.
I've never seen in my life. Now, we've known and theorized. By the way, Buff Mike, I'm going to get to your chat in a second here because we're going to actually talk about that on the show. We've known and seen for a while. We've had this feeling that they were coming for free speech. It's been pretty obvious. I can't say that I've actually heard.
Dude, I'm over the idea of private companies not have to abide by the fucking Constitution. It's the rule of law of this country. Do you have it or do you not? It doesn't matter. I don't care. If you don't have borders, you don't have a country. If you don't have Constitution and the rule of law, you don't have a country. If a law goes against the Constitution, it's not supposed to exist. So you're proving the point, Mike, of that they're fucking evil bastards. The only reason that you have that thought in your mind is because they said it so many times. It's called hyperlinguistic programming. Look it up. They say it so you regurgitate it like a fucking idiot. And you're not stupid, but you talk like them because they told you to talk like that. And you're like, oh, private company. No, Mark Zuckerberg was told to do this. That's not a private company. The government stole an election from its people. That is tyrannical. That is worse than what England did in the 1700s that we revolted against. It's worse than what the South did when they tried to secede to keep slavery. Yes, what she said is worse than slavery. They're going to make slaves of all of us at a global level with private companies. Do you know what private companies saying, David, in China, when they make the same spy grid for Chinese government? Well, if we don't make it, they're going to make it. Let them make it, Mark Zuckerberg. Oh, that's right. You want their money and the power and the algorithm to do it here for our government. It's not a private company. If any law, this is what's so fucked up, dude. This is what back to its roots mean. If any law that is ever written in the history of this country goes against the Bill of Rights specifically. It's literally the most important part of the Constitution. And I heard that from a guy in D.C., in the room of the Constitution. He said, this is the most important piece of paper in all of America. Not the Bible, nothing. If the only thing that you could say from America, it would be the Bill of Rights, okay? They're trying to make slaves of all of us. If any law goes against those things, it's null and void. It's literally in the fucking document. They use neuro-linguistic programming to steal your civil liberties, and you say a private company. How's it private when it's already installed on your phone? The CIA says they use Facebook, and the FBI use Facebook as their main means of searching. How is that a private company if the government name another private company, David, that the government uses and it's not a government entity or a government contractor at least. But that's right. If it's a government contractor, it has to abide by the Constitution. That I'm told doesn't matter, David, that is owned by racist white men. I wonder why they neuro-linguistically program me to hate the very foundations of this country. Because I won't have the spirit of the same spirit that they had, the spirit of liberty, right, David? The animated contest of liberty that Thomas Jefferson talked about. That's why they neuro-linguistically program you for that, too. Don't look up that word, though. Just look up how much Mar-a-Lago is worth in 1980 and compare it to fucking right now. That's normal. All the other real estate's exploding, David, except the building that's owned by the former president, of course. But Joe Biden can leverage all his house 10 trillion times over. Look at his debt to income, all the fucking mortgages he's taken on in his own property. That's not corruption, but Trump does it. He's the evil guy, right? They all do it. If it goes against the Constitution, it's illegal. It doesn't matter if it's a private company. It's all the more reason why it's bastardly.
You know what? This was planned for a little bit later in the show, but since that chat came up, I'm going to put this up right now. And here's exactly why a private company doing it is not okay. And I'm going to pull this up right now.
Is this the Elon thing?
Well, this is actually here.
The X thing.
The easiest way. We're going to get to that too, but this is on Tucker Carlson, and this really nails it here.
U.S. and French shared military intelligence and diplomatic and economic interests in arresting Pavel and finally getting the leverage they've craved for so long to be able to both control Telegram's content moderation practice, to ban all Russian propaganda channels, which are infecting the minds of everyone from Ukraine to Belarus to
same thing they said about Socrates, David.
But also the ability to get this back end access to read every Russian text message effectively. There's a great example of this in terms of blowback on Americans. So we've talked about this group, the Atlantic Council, which bills itself as NATO's think tank. It is, again, a lot of people don't even know 7 CIA directors are still alive, let alone all clustered together on the board of directors of
Can you pause it?
A NATO think.
You guys heard that, right? Just before we go any further, the CIA is running a NATO think tank. Okay, just
tank. But it gets annual funding from the Pentagon, the State Department, and CIA cutouts like the National Endowment for Democracy, as well as USAID. There are 11 different federal government agencies who all provide federal government funding every single year to what is effectively the civilian influence arm of NATO. Now, in March 2018, the Atlantic Council published a set of white papers called Democratic Defense Against Disinformation. And in the March 2018 version of it, the cover photo, again, this is funded by the United States Pentagon, United States State Department, and United States Intelligence Service conduits. The front page of this memo called Democratic Defense Against Disinformation, which called for this whole of society playbook about how the government could organize civil society, censorship from the civil society side, censorship from the private sector side, censorship advocacy in media organizations. The cover of the memo
real quick, just to note, one of the things he listed was censorship from the private sector.
The memo was a giant network map, a network narrative map of the French election, because at the time there was some WikiLeaks had published something called the Macron leaks, which were these sensitive, politically embarrassing emails involving Macron when
Macron's
he was neck and neck in the race against Marine Le Pen in 2018. And the front page of it, had in red all these narrative network maps of French citizens and Russians. But there were two big green network nodes that were highlighted at the front of the memo. And one of them was a big network node saying WikiLeaks. The other one was a big network node saying Jack Posobiec. Just so you understand what's going on here. WikiLeaks had published these Macron leaks. And Jack Posobiec at the time was this large, U.S.-based, U.S. citizen social media influencer who was one of the first and most aggressive to popularize the distribution of these Macron leaks on social media. And that was considered an attack on democracy by effectively the Pentagon, the State Department, the CIA, NATO. They were not targeting Russians. They were not targeting French. They were targeting a U.S. citizen for amplifying now publicly available documents that might undermine political support for NATO's preferred political puppet in France.
By telling the truth.
By publishing true documents.
That tactic is known as a false flag, David, basically. That little end part there that they say, oh, we're going to use this to monitor terrorism. And then they target American citizens. That's them blowing up 9/11 to go and fade Iraq to just fucking hand grenade the Middle East even more. It's literally, there is nothing new under the sun.
No, not at all. Mike, I'm going to try to break this down as simply as the way I put it. From a legal standpoint, I'm not saying should, I'm saying legally can. A private company legally can not do what they'd like, but they legally can censor speech. We've gotten into the Section 230 arguments before. There's stipulations to this. If you're a private company and you consider yourself a platform like Facebook, YouTube, X, Google, whatever it may be, if you consider yourself a platform and you are actively censoring speech and doing certain things, especially if you're doing it in a biased way, you are not acting as a platform. You are now acting as a publisher. With that comes certain libel laws. They get libel protection when they are a platform. So if people go on their platform and say terroristic things or stir up violence or something along those lines, the platform is not liable for that action. They don't get held liable. If you are a publisher, for example, the New York Times, if you have a journalist who stirs up a violent act, now the journalist is liable, and so is the New York Times. So we're going to put that over here, okay? So that's part of it. That's part of it. Private companies, can they censor? Not should they. Can they legally? Sure, with those stipulations. We're going to get into the other side of this argument, which is Mark Zuckerberg has testified in front of Congress. And remember, we played the clip years ago, so we already know this. But we played the clip years ago. He testified in front of Congress recently and said that the CIA, the FBI, the DHS were all pressuring Facebook execs. They were pressuring Facebook to censor speech. Certain things like, for example, the Hunter Biden laptop story, which was one of them. But they labeled everything Russian propaganda and said that you have to censor the speech or that you should censor the speech. They had open lines. We did the Twitter files for God knows how long. There were 20 of them. We did every single one of them, which showed that there were open, they called them portals, between the CIA and FBI, different government agencies, and the social media platforms pushing to censor speech, including the Biden and Harris administration, or the Harris-Biden administration, whatever you want to consider it. They were actively censoring people because they were told to censor people from the government. Yes, that is the most egregious First Amendment violation. It is the equivalent in the 1700s, someone standing in a public square and speaking, and government officials dragging them off the stage in the town square. It is the most egregious violation of First Amendment. And now we have Kamala Harris running for president, openly telling these companies that they should censor speech. That is so absurd and such an egregious violation of the First Amendment that I can't believe anyone would say it or anyone would support it. It's absolutely mind-blowing to me. Democratic Defense Against Disinformation. Are you fucking serious?
Well, that's the whole point, right, David? In an upside down world, it's kind of like how the SAFE Act, right? Doesn't make you any safer because they're targeting things that aren't even gonna make, like, it's the whole point. Patriotic, Patriot Act, but it's super unpatriotic because they gut your civil liberties.
Last
the Patriot Act is actually where all of this NSA spy grid and the even Facebook algorithm even came from. Just so I know we've said this before on the program, but it's literally the backbones that snapped this thing together.
Last week we played the Tim Walz clip where he said that, hate speech or misinformation or disinformation, these are all made up terms.
Not real.
It shouldn't exist, right? There should be no free speech protections for that speech, which, by the way, Ryan and myself have talked about this many times on the show. Free speech specifically exists to protect speech that people don't like, because that's the only speech that needs to be protected. Now, this week, we have Kamala Harris openly
for the record,
saying,
you can be a shitty person with your speech still.
Sure. Yeah, you can
for
still
looking
be
morally. You can ruin,
yeah.
You ruining relationships or telling your boss to lick your ass or whatever the hell you're doing. Like, yeah, it doesn't make you a good person. That's not the point of freedom of speech. Just that you're able to. It's like people it's like chastising, you're trying to chastise you with morals. Like, you can't say that. It's like, the fuck I can't. I can say anything I want. It's America.
So yes, the private company argument to me is ridiculous, just because it's a can they versus should they versus let's not forget the big picture, which is government is telling them to. And that's the biggest issue. And then there's the Section 230 point. So between all of that, it's not great. That leads us to other forms of censorship, which is Brazil, Ryan. Brazil has flat out banned X.
Well, David, clearly we were told to just buy your own social media company. It's of course what you do.
Well, that's interesting, because Elon did buy a social media company.
And then what do you do?
David? What do you do? What do you do when like Rumble's affected by this too? Rumble's having legal battles with Brazil. They've pulled out. But like, what do you do when the government of another nation says, "Fuck this platform. My citizens can't use it." Now, people in Brazil are using things like VPNs. You can go on a VPN and just be.
Why don't they use Telegram, David? They use Telegram.
Telegram. I don't know if it's probably still up. I mean, the guy got arrested because there wasn't enough moderation on his. That's interesting, Ryan. Interesting. Private company can do what they want. Oh, look at this private company.
Yeah.
Look at this private company. He's doing what he wants. By the way, you don't have enough moderation, and I'm arresting you in France. Are you kidding me? Could you imagine getting SWAT teamed?
I'm a private company. I'm a private company, though. I'm a private company. Section 230. It just exists, platform. Everybody's able to just equally speak. I don't involve myself in one opinion or the other. That's what platform is, right, David? Equal town square, right? That's what we're told. It's funny. The people who want equality, right, are like being the least equal. It's fucking weird. Upside down world. Lucifer runs the world, David, right? That's why the cross was inverted.
There's a lot of speech I don't like, Ryan, but I don't call for it to be silenced. I
never have told the tranny to shut their mouth.
I want all the speech. I want the speech I don't like. I agree with you, Mike. Brazil doesn't have to follow the rules that we follow. The bigger picture is
why?
This is the kind of global tyranny that's going on. And it's happening here too. It just happens a little bit slower because of our Constitution, which, by the way, everyone should be very thankful for.
No, David, they just have to use the private company argument. See, that's a beautiful thing about corporate America, David, which is the very thing Big Mike hates, which I do too. I hate that they can just skirt around our personal sovereignty and our country and steal all the money and get government subsidies, and that I don't get. And they're okay with $5 more minimum wage because Walmart can afford the increase, but mom and pop shops can't. I completely agree with you. That's actually the problem.
They're part of the elites.
Yeah, it's just the problem.
Just because they're like these companies like BlackRock and Vanguard and stuff. These are part of the elites. These are part of the problems. It's a combination of the government and these big corporations that are getting together. They get in bed with each other. Those are the parties, right? And they're a uniparty. It's the corporations, it's the government, and they're the uniparty. And they're coming together to make everyone else less free. We should be openly against this. That's what.
To go further, David, the government employs more people than the private sector. So it doesn't matter if it's a private company, because if the government's pushing this thing at the narrative, over 50% of the people employed in the fucking country are paid by the government. So they're going to tote the line too.
And what do you do? Like, what do you do? Like, I know we had this conversation when Zuckerberg was on Rogan and we broke this the first time, but like, what do you do? Like, if you're Mark Zuckerberg and somebody from the FBI comes up to you, you basically have two options, right? You can have your badass moment, right? You can be like, no, shove it up your ass, which is great. But I will at least admit, listen, the top 1% of men are the shove it up your ass guys, right? It is very rare that you have that kind of man who would tell an FBI, whether it's an agent or a group of agents, if a men full of black suits come in and say, hey, you're going to play ball, it's very tough to find the man who's going to say, shove it up your ass. So I don't fully blame Mark Zuckerberg. I'm going to be honest, because he was put in a tough position and he folded.
Dude, one man can't change the system. The problem is it's funny because the guy that is censoring speech needs the people to have free speech. So that doesn't happen. Because one man can't change the system, which is why we need to be able to discuss ideas, David, with the freedom of speech, so that we're able to tell the good ones from the bad ones. And if there is somebody that's sifting out like a fucking hourglass all the ideas that we are allowed to see or talk about, how will we ever get to the bottom of it? So the guy built the system that he needs to save himself from the very corrupt powers that are telling him what to do with his, quote, private company. Interesting.
I don't know. I don't really know what to say. Like, what do you do? Like,
go back to Elon. They'll just take you from the country. They'll take you off the server. Apple will pull you from the App Store like they did Parler. Like, it's.
Does everyone remember Parler?
Yeah, the idea of like, because like you said, David. Oh, the private companies. Okay, I'll make a private company that's freedom oriented and all these things. They shut down Rumble. They shut down this. They shut down X. Remember when Elon said that the X stream between him and Donald Trump was actually an attack, some kind of digital attack? I'm sure that was a conspiracy. Well, how's it a conspiracy? Well, Elon's reporting it on his own social media app. Well, I can't talk about it on Facebook. It's throttled. But then every news article you see, David, is based on polling and social media data and how many retweets something has or how many likes or how many people commented on Instagram. But they throttle the algorithm that they now use as proof of the system working or not working. That's literally what Winston does in 1984 with the Ministry of Truth, David, for people at home playing the long December 1773 game at home on their bingo board.
Well, and for those who don't remember, they actually tried to recreate the actual Ministry of Truth. It was through the was it through the DHS? I can't remember.
Homeland Security.
It was, wasn't it? It was like a sub.
Of course it was, David. Who else?
It was like a subgroup of the DHS.
The fifth branch of the military before there was the fifth branch of the military with the Space Force, David. What are you talking about?
I don't remember what it was called either. What was that group? It was the disinformation. It was years ago. I was upstairs.
Upstairs, diving deep. My stapler. David, you're digging deep in the catacombs there for that December headline.
But see, we
told you. This shit has it. Kamala Harris saying that thing earlier. We told you 2 years ago that they literally have a board of people that they're paying to employ.
Ooh, the disinformation governance board. Oh man, I gotta Google it now because I can't remember.
Here he goes. But see, like this is the thing. That's why we talked about it then, and people are like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. It got shut down." Be like, dude, that idea. It's called the Overton window. There, Buff Mike. If you look at that, go define that for yourself and try to understand that concept. They push radical ideas so that you set less radical ideas. But the whole thing that they planned was both ideas the whole fucking time. There it is.
The Disinformation Governance Board. 22. The Disinformation Governance Board was an advisory board of the United States Department of Homeland Security, DHS. Announced April 27th, 2022. The board's stated function was to protect national security by disseminating guidance to DHS agency on combating misinformation, malinformation, and disinformation, all made-up terms that threatens the security of the homeland, specific problem areas. monitored by the DHS included false information propagated by human smugglers encouraging migrants to surge to Mexico.
As well as Russia's state disinformation and election interference, even though they have said that that's the thing, and the 2020 Russian information of Ukraine. Amazing.
On May 18th, the board and its working group were, in quotes, paused pending review. I'm sure it just went away, Ryan.
Yeah, no, David, they definitely didn't. They didn't fucking can that and put that in a black clandestine operation. That's literally a term. Black clandestine operation. Go fucking look that one up. That's a real thing. It means they take it off the books and it just has a black budget that just gets money. And then they gaslight you with lyrical neuro-linguistic programming when Kamala Harris and South America and say this is disinformation. Why do you think disinformation stuck? You know, Trump does it. Actually, Trump is actually a prime example. Low energy, you know, like lock her up, like build a wall. Like that is neuro-linguistic programming. Trump knows that because he's a businessman. He knows psychology. He knows how to get people to buy things through sales. Like that's actually why, like, he does that. It's just baked into his personality at this point. But that shit happens at a global government level. That's why they told you globalism is inevitable. That's why we say it too. We joke about it, right, David? Parts per million. But I have little plastic in my dick and my brain now.
Just parts per million, though.
Just parts per million. Don't talk about the nanoplastic, David. We stopped classifying things at microplastics. They tell you words don't matter, folks, but then to them, the words matter the most. That's why it's called legalese. Holy fuck.
Ryan.
I'm not going to accept programming, David. Like I said this about the COVID disinformation campaign, the largest propaganda scheme ever contrived against all of humanity, David, and we withstood it because we have strong minds. But I will tell you this right now. Just like I said then, I will not follow science that empowers authoritarians. I will not do anything that guts my countrymen of their liberties. You know, this isn't one person trying to change the world through fucking the internet, because you know what, Mark Zuckerberg, you damn well know if you were to take the algorithm off, Dave and I would beat the living bricks off everybody that is on the internet.
Imagine being Mark Zuckerberg, right? You're in high school or college or whatever. You're just a fucking dork with no friends. And you're like, I know how I'm going to get friends. I'm going to create a social media company, right? And boom, 15 years later, the CIA is telling you that people aren't allowed to talk. It's just crazy that, like, could you imagine being in that position? And I give Mark Zuckerberg a little bit of credit. I will give him a little bit of credit. We've been seeing for a little while that he seems to be coming around a little bit. But
this is like the same thing, like, you know, when they humanize themselves, like Warren Buffett, he eats ice cream. It's something Alex always said. Warren Buffett's always seen, when you see pictures of Warren Buffett, he's always laughing and smiling and all this shit. When in reality, that guy is a vicious man, a vicious investor, vicious like the way he made his money. And, you know, they know how to. Well, he's just a farmer and a philanthropist, David.
Yes. He's just trying to save children in Africa.
Hey, you remember where that breakout happened? Was exactly the same place that they administered the same vaccine for the same breakout that happened 6 months before.
Oh, that's weird.
That monkey farm, I fucking swear to God, we're gonna forget about that monkey farm.
Should we check for an update on the monkey farm real quick?
I'm telling you, if they are developing the monkeypox vaccine in that monkey farm, David.
Where was that? Do you remember?
It was in Bainbridge something.
You remember Bainbridge, but not the state. Where are you going?
I have a tie to the name. But
the producer has joined us. No, you can't.
Is it Georgia? Bainbridge, Georgia. Check Georgia.
Georgia?
Why do you have us so close? I can't hear.
What do you mean you can't? Well, then you get closer.
No, this is where
I need this part here. See, I have to teach production. This part here is the microphone. It amplifies my voice.
Just fucking get plain. Just pay me the ad read. I'll take David. I've said I'll take the stuff off your plate. I've always felt guilty, David. I've always felt guilty, David, that all I do is just show up and flap my gums. And you're like, no, there's really not that much to do. And now here, all I get to hear about is the reason why you get the $2 from the Rumble ads. is because you do like 3 extra minutes of work every week.
Yeah, it's a lot extra.
David, I have to lose sweat and nights of sleep every night developing this content all week just to come here and drop gems, and you're going to tell me.
What's recently? June 12th, Georgia residents are fighting efforts to build the monkey farm. GA leaders are having second thoughts about the monkey farm.
Was it in Georgia? Was I correct?
It is in Georgia and Bainbridge,
Fucking
Georgia.
photographic memory.
That's like such a way harder thing to remember than like the board that they tried to create to silence everybody's speech. I had to stretch to try to remember that.
Clearly, David, I'm just a local degenerate here.
For
the record, I barely passed high
monkey
school.
farm plan for research unites residents against.
Ooh, cool. Research.
A monkey breeding farm. Is that what it was for? It was for breeding?
No, they said there was going to be various things, but pharmaceuticals was definitely on there. Pharmaceuticals was definitely on there.
Well, it doesn't seem like the monkey farm's going very well.
Well,
I'm sure everybody involved got monkeypox. Mpox. Sorry, Mpox. Don't want to be racist. I don't want to be racist, Ryan. They created the term monkeypox, and then they told us it was racist. Fucking madness.
Clearly, it's the patriarchy working overtime.
You told me what it was. I now have to change because the thing you created, you said was racist.
Words are not important, David, but you just got to change the way you're speaking about them.
The monkeypox vaccine was in 2019. Maybe. I don't know. We're talking about there's a monkey farm that they're trying to build in Georgia. I don't know for what. Mpox. Mpox, Mike. Don't say monkeypox. That's racist. Forgot what I was going to bring up. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about the UN. Brian, do you remember when globalism was well,
Mike, for the record, I'm not saying they're using that farm to make a vaccine. I'm just saying I'll be pissed off if they will, because I just read this magic thing and then we see the monkeypox breakout. This is what I'm trying to say. They set the fucking thing up. It's you burn the house down and then you're the fire department and then you get paid to put out the fire that you set. It's not that. This is the oldest trick in the book. I just heard a story about a Roman, one of the richest Roman people to ever live owned a fire department. And he would come and he would pay somebody to burn your house down. And he would come and be like, I'll give you 50 coins or whatever their currency was. And if they didn't take it, give me 50 coins. I put out the fire. I'll give you this much. He would let the thing burn to the ground and offer him less and less. The point of the story is the way he would just exploit people's weaknesses. He would cause a tragedy and exploit it. These people do this. They have the trillions of dollars to do it. What are you looking up? What about Monkey Island in North Carolina? Yes, Crassus. That is him, ain't it?
Yeah.
Fucking told you. Read the myth, David. What is it?
Hold on. I gotta find wiki because firefighting in ancient Rome.
Clearly, David, they had government for that.
Hold on. Let me search Crassus instead.
Clearly, David, he got in the fire department because he just loves helping people.
One of the richest. Hold on. The fire brigade. Is this real? This is fucking wild.
Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. That's what I'm saying. So the deep dives, David, that I'm on, historical dives, gems that I was given to by other content creators.
Okay, let's see if we can pull this up. Began his career as a military commander. Perfect. Political and financial patron of Julius Caesar.
Gallic War. Battle of Carthage.
I need fire brigade though. Where's the fire brigade at?
The Rubicon.
Yes. Fire brigade. Youth in the First Civil War. Rise to power and wealth.
Here we go, David.
Surely it's got to be in here. Was acquired conventionally through slave trafficking. Oh, conventionally through slave trafficking. He bought property that was confiscated. Architects, builders. The first ever Roman fire brigade was created by Crassus. Fires were almost a daily occurrence in Rome, and Crassus took advantage of the fact that Rome had no fire department by creating his own brigade, 500 men strong, which rushed to burning buildings at the first cry of an alarm. Upon arriving at the scene, however, the firefighters did nothing while Crassus offered to buy the burning building from the distressed property owner at a miserable price. If the owner agreed to sell the property, his men would put out the fire. If the owner refused, they would simply let the structure burn to the ground. What the fuck?
Yeah, and then after the properties were many properties this way, he'd rebuild them and often lease the properties back to the original owners or new tenants.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, man. You know,
but he was the same.
Don't read history. Don't read history, people.
Wow, that's crazy. Not as crazy as this, Ryan. For a long time, we now know that globalism is inevitable. In fact, it's here. It used to be a conspiracy. Do you remember the days when globalists and globalism was a conspiracy?
No, David.
Like, oh, that's crazy. That's not a real thing.
David, clearly, you need global taxes to have global government, David. Everybody knows that. We don't have that.
We do. No, that was a story in the show. We have global tax.
Well, clearly there needs to be.
This is courtesy of Stephen Crowder's Mug Club, Undercover. I'm going to put this on because it's a little tough to hear, but don't worry, there's text.
So is globalism one of
kind of long, so we're probably going to watch the whole thing.
It's a threat to the absolute power of the United States. One of the defining features of this MAGA movement is the ultranationalism. And one of the main enemies are what they call the globalists. And the definition of a globalist.
Okay, real quick, just in case. This is a UN legal officer, right? This is a guy very high up at the UN who's saying, I am the definition of a globalist.
The UN is to create an identity of a globalist citizen. They create this institution, which is the closest we've ever got to sound like a world government. You know, the United Nations does not have its own army.
Yes, it does. It's NATO.
Absolutely. I'm not sure the United Nations as an institution is going to survive a second term by Donald Trump.
I think that's all we need, honestly.
Yeah, I wonder why we're seeing the entire apparatus at every level conspire against him then, David. How many paychecks are going to be lost if they get rid of that institution? How much funneling of money and levies of war, and how many institutions the growing military industrial complex that FDR warned about, for example? How many of these socialist countries that have all these great socialist safety nets, they now have to provide money for their own security? Will they be able to afford both? I personally don't believe this. I do believe globalism, it's built to last. The whole idea of globalism is to gut every country systematically. They have to implode your culture. They have to implode your borders. They have to implode your economy. They have to implode your civil liberties, any kind of apparatus, any kind of natural resource. They have to exploit everything. They have to turn the people against each other based on race lines or whatever. Race lines, religion, income brackets, fucking gerrymandering, all like it's the systems. Because basically globalism is just like taking, Alex always talked about this, it was just basically the Roman, I'm not saying all of the Roman stuff is good or bad, but the way the Romans would come into an area, they would survey the land, they would grid it out into literally grids, right? The whole idea of gridding your neighborhood comes from the Romans, basically. If you look at London, the city of London, the original section of it was actually mapped out by the Romans, and it's a square. And I think the name even London means something like land of dimes or something. Like it's 100 miles by 100 miles or something or whatever. The point of it is they basically take that system. The Roman system was then carried into the English system, which became the English Empire. And then the English Empire, you basically take that system and you expand it to a global level. And then each part of Kevin came on here and actually talked about how there's the different banks, the Bank of England, and the bank, which is basically the stock market. There's institutions in London. There's the MI6 or all these special agents. I don't fucking know. The problem is the idea of globalism isn't really that far-fetched because the systems required to achieve globalism have been in place for millennia. They just need to scale the system, which is why they need to control the internet, because if they can control the internet, they can change the history on the internet, And if you own a book, they'll say it's not real, and you just print it in your garage or something. Which is why we encourage you to buy things. But the censoring of freedom of speech is as bad as that is. What they really want to do is be able to rewrite history, which is something back to 1984 scoreboard, something Orwell always worried about, because if you can rewrite history, you can control the present, and then you can judge the future. So that's why the history and the past is so important, and we think it is the least important. And I may magnify history and the past in general because it's something I have a problem getting over with personally. So maybe that's my own trauma, whatever. Not therapy hour. But that's really, I meant to say this during that whole Kamala Harris thing. The real reason is to censor the information that's already created, like the greatest works of history that have ever been made, like the Bible or some of the ancient Greek myths. I'm not saying they're going to target those, but people always say worry about the books that they don't want you to read, like the right wingers try to censor book. They're going to do that with all of the best stories ever. We came on the program, said Lord of the Rings in 1984. If you read those, you're a right-wing extremist, when Orwell was literally a fucking communist. So I don't know what more to say to people. There's no hidden camera that's going to make me believe any more than I did then, David, because the ideas of globalism, once again, the systems required to achieve the principle have already been in place for 3,000 years. They just need to plug the internet into it. And the way they plugged the internet into it was social media. It was the smartphone. That's why the apple is bitten out of the back, because we took the bite out of the Garden of Eden, David. And if you think they just accidentally called it Macintosh and slapped the fucking apple on there, I have a rocket ship to sell you. Because they neurally, linguistically program you, and they program you through images and your subconscious. And they even fuck with your brain waves and your sleep patterns, David. So completely conversation, though we're talking about the UN budget here, which I don't know is 27% of its funds. But they do have an army, David. You were right. The UN does have an army. They have blue hats, and they also have a giant laser beam. So I would not piss off the United Nations. I do not believe globalism is going anywhere. And Steven Crowder is a G for breaking this shit, as always. I told you guys, he's really like the OG in the space, him and Alex. But the point at this point, do you got anything after this, Dave?
I have one thing on RFK.
Okay, great. I'll just round it out then. It's crazy because they're going to say, people who don't like this video are going to say this is a conspiracy and this is fake and this guy isn't real. And he's not going to meet some cute girl at a bar and just talk about his job, because, you know what? Dudes will. They're simps. Just like Tim Pool's little bitch ass. I don't know if you saw that video I sent you about Tim Pool, but it was hilarious. Apparently, it's all the girl's fault, David. It's not Tim Pool being a cocksucker. Anyways, and then people on the right will obviously say that this is a proof that global government. I will simply say the same thing I've always said about global government, David, that if you want to look further, no further than global government, just simply study the history of the Bilderberg Group. Everything else is just window dressing on that very organization. So, RFK, David.
Just a quick note about RFK Jr. Last week we talked how he didn't really drop out. He half dropped out, but he's still half in the running depending on the state. One of the states, North Carolina, which is apparently a swing state, he's currently suing North Carolina to have his name removed from the ballot. They are not letting him remove his name from the ballot, which is interesting.
David, clearly it's democracy, and he can suspend his campaign whenever he wants.
No, there's rules to be followed, Ryan. You don't just get to throw yourself off of a ballot.
I'm sure the lawsuit will go through before the election day, David. Clearly this is going to be expedited as a special scenario because the grave circumstance of the consideration of the state that we're talking about.
You know what this means, though, right, Ryan?
It's interference in a domestic election, David.
Well, sure, but we're over that. We already know they steal elections. This is
right.
What it means, Ryan. It means internally they have polling. You got to remember, nothing happens without a reason. For example,
Dave, how are they going to poll, David? Is it going to be that Facebook algorithm that's got everybody's like and comment habits and what their content they're streaming on?
No, for that to happen, you would need somebody
at the polls, David.
No, for that to happen, you would need somebody at the World Economic Forum to tell you that in the future you'll need no voting. The algorithm will figure out your votes for you, everybody. No.
Where between Stephen Hawking and Donald Trump do you fall? I mean,
we talked about when Biden dropped out that they had to have internal polling that showed it was so bad that he just literally could not go on. With that said, if they're not allowing RFK Jr. to drop off this ballot, they have to have internal polling that shows like RFK Jr. has enough sway that he could sway the election, right?
Jewish space lasers.
Jewish space lasers.
It's fucking.
Just do whatever. I don't know. We're doing this right now. Are you serious? I don't pick whatever the hell you want. I don't know. I don't.
Jewish space lasers is fucking hilarious, dude.
I think that one's
Israeli,
like literally just.
I wonder if the tip of it is the Star of David and.
Yeah, RFK Jr. didn't drop out. He suspended it. Well, it's he's still running, just not as hard. It's kind of complex. He kind of pointed out that he's going to stay on in heavy blue states, heavy red states.
You should have just bailed. I don't know why. Like, dude, you're not. You know, it's so crazy that people are worried about how they're going to feel about voting for Donald Trump, dude. They're trying to make you a slave. If you don't get it, don't fucking vote. It's not hard. Of course, Fox News is going to say that. They're not Republican leaning. If you're saying Fox News is like this vestige of information, I am the right wing. Dave is the right wing. I don't give a fuck. I talk to people. I don't just sit in a bubble and read shit on Instagram. I actually talk to people. How many Trump stickers do you see? Like, I mean, all of it. The t-shirts, the hats, the fuck yous, the posts. Like, how much? It's everywhere. Fox News is going to show that Harris is winning because they have an invested interest of bankrupting the right wing. Why would the left not do that? I only say the left because we're seeing what the left is doing with the censorship of speech. Not that I actually believe that is a party game. Because they're all just elitists and I'm sorry, David, globalists. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, not big elitists. That's a QAnon conspiracy theory, though, right, Ryan?
Fucking pricks. You're gonna be.
But here's a guy
scratch.
from the UN running around telling everybody that he's a globalist. By the way, these videos to me are always hilarious. What was that guy's name that used to break these all the time? O'Keefe? Was it James O'Keefe?
Yeah, James O'Keefe. Ambush journalism, David.
Literally the secret sauce is always the same thing. It's like a mildly attractive girl, and they meet him at a bar. Like, it's always at a bar every time. And then, like, what is wrong with these people? These people are in these positions, and they just immediately blab to any moderately attractive woman that meets them in a bar. They're like, oh, by the way, I'm in the UN, and I'm a globalist, and Trump scares us, and this can't be serious. These people
that's
are
why
ridiculous.
That's why some people think the videos are fake, you know, but like in reality, like
I think they're real. I think these people are fucking dorks.
Truth is stranger than fiction, David.
It's crazy to me.
It's also crazy to me to think that like cops literally catch people the same exact way. So why would we not catch globalists doing the same? It's Dave. The moral of the story is these psychopaths can't help but talk about the shit they're doing to you. They don't feel bad because they're telling you what they're doing to you. We've talked about this. It's called neuro-linguistic programming. They tell you that they're raping you, so when they rape you, you don't feel bad because you shouldn't have been there because I was going to tell you I was going to rape you, David. That's how they look at it. They're fucking psychos, and they just have trillions of dollars.
Ryan, you shouldn't have been wearing that skirt, though. It was very short.
Well, I wouldn't have bought the skirt if Kim Kardashian didn't tell me on my Instagram feed, David.
That sounds like MK Ultra. Listen, Mike.
Just Operation Midnight Climax to the T, David.
You have to use your senses, right? You have to use your senses, trust your senses, use context clues. What do flags and stickers represent who's going to vote for who? It's like when we were talking about these rallies. The rallies, the reason these matter is because we're told that Trump supporters are ultra minority and they don't have that much support. And then he shows up to these rallies and there's 30, 40,000 people just sitting inside of arena listening to him speak. And we're told that he's not popular. We're told that we're in a minority. We're told that he can't win the election.
Dude, 10 million people buy Harry Potter books in one day, David. It's called a fucking global phenomenon that's gripping the globe. 10 million people buy a Trump hat. Nah, it's a fringe minority. That's what it is. Psychologically, why are people spending their money in the hardest economic time on fucking flags and sticks and stickers? Serious question. Groceries have doubled in 2 years, and people are buying Trump flags.
But inflation is below 3%.
I don't give a fuck, David. My money's worthless more now than it was then.
That CNN. Oh, we didn't talk about this either. I'm sorry. I said RFK Jr.
The ultra-processed foods being good for you, David?
No. Well, no. I mean, we can certainly mention that. Kamala Harris gave an interview.
Fucking pissed off.
I forgot. How did we forget this? Kamala Harris, in a show, of her intelligence, of course, quick-wittedness, on her feet ability. Everyone, of course, knows about her off her feet ability. She did a 30-minute pre-recorded interview with the vice president on CNN, and out of that, they only aired 18 minutes. 18 minutes out of a 30-minute interview. We had Dr. Mike Termott on for over an hour before we scheduled him. I said, do you want it pre-recorded or live? They said, doesn't matter. I said, do you want like a script? Do you want things that I'm going to ask him? Like, do you want the questions ahead of time so he can be prepared? No, it doesn't matter. Don't need it. He's a libertarian vice presidential guy, right? He's like, this is Kamala Harris. She has been anointed as the holy one. She is going to lead the Democratic Party to victory. She couldn't do 30 minutes on a pre-record with her vice president. Salesman. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. She can't be bright. It's not possible. How could you only do a 30-minute pre-record? We're at an hour now.
Dude, Trump did 7 podcasts in 1 week at an hour apiece.
We're at an hour now. My notes aren't even half a page. And it's just, by the way, they're not notes. They're just like, by the way, don't forget to talk about this thing. It's not, this is it. This is literally the show. That's the whole thing.
Well, David, clearly an 18-minute conversation is all the time you need to function the most powerful democracy, republic, and nuclear arsenal in the history of humanity. Clearly.
Fucking 18 minutes is embarrassing. With another person being interviewed by CNN, which means half of the talking time was CNN. Well, maybe not half. Some of the talking time was CNN. Some of it was the vice president. How long did she talk for? 5 minutes? And she's going to run the country, and she's got plans.
Why wouldn't you
really elaborate on those plans? Talk about them for more than 5 minutes, Kamala Harris.
She's just going to laugh and price fix and say, I seen a thing that Kamala Harris actually wants the mics on so that she can shut Trump down. Like, excuse me, I'm talking. And the article is basically trying to say that she will stop Trump from mansplaining. But so she could be a cunt. That's fine. But a guy does it, and he's part of the patriarchy. So whatever.
That's fucking crazy.
Is that it? Are we there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta level you. I don't have much. Once I found out that Mark Zuckerberg literally targeted my channel so that him and Joe Biden can go run off in a sunset and suck dick in his fucking mansion he's building underground in Hawaii, I don't really care. I took it personal. Okay, people for a long time, David, you know this behind the scenes. People for a long time have made fun of me. I was more vocal about my political opinions before all this internet shit and all this. I've been made fun of for a long time for just simply asking questions and telling people that I don't think that the powers that be are really telling us what it is and chemtrails and your food's poison. I'm the first person I know that was talking about poison food locally, other than like farmers. Now everybody's like, all the shit they put in red number 40. I heard a guy talk about pop the other day, how bad it was for you. It's like, I'm glad we're all awake and stuff, but somebody that's been in this a while, I told you, Dave told you, we showed you the proof. We showed you how they said we're interfering in foreign elections. We showed you the literal actual proof that they targeted a quote. How many people have said that your programs that who's that prick on our Facebook says basement dwellers? If I'm a basement dweller, why am I being targeted by the federal government?
To be fair to him, Ryan, I am in my basement studio.
Okay,
it's mine though. It's not my mom's house.
Shame on you for having a fucking mortgage, David. Dude, The government targets people. They targeted us. I told my dad. My dad told me, he's like, did you hear about Mark Zuckerberg? I was like, yeah, Dad, I did. The thing you got to realize is that's your son he's talking about. This isn't just like a private Facebook page, people. This isn't just like sharing your political opinion. We're actually trying to make a program. That's the shit they targeted. I don't want to hear shit from anybody unless you've been targeted by the federal government for your political opinion ever again. Truly. I want content. I want dialogue. Big Mike, I love you. Buff Mike, I love you. Whatever. All the mics, I love you. Obviously I want the comments, and that's why we're here. But I mean, what you actually provide is what I'm talking about. We're having the animated contest of liberty, not just being told I'm a retard or a basement dweller, all this shit. And I know the guy could be a bot and he's just doing it to get me pissed off. But like in the real scheme of things, when Mark Zuckerberg came out and said all that stuff about Meta, all I thought about is that guy just proved to me how dangerous we could be, David. Because he admitted by default that they're scared of us. They do not want you to hear this program because they don't like the ideas that we present, or that the train of thought, or the way that we provoke something. They don't like it. It's as clear as day, whether it's medical misinformation or interference in a foreign election, or if I'm too red pill that day, or if I say something misogynistic, or say some word that can get me canceled, or I'm a domestic terrorist when I say threats. Like, they can say whatever they want. They don't like it. They don't want you to have it. And if they will do it to me, they will do it to you. They will do it to Donald Trump. They will do it to Elon Musk. They will do it to Joe Rogan. They will do it to everybody till nobody's free. Okay? You are the carbon they are trying to eliminate. And until then, Dave and Ryan will be there on December 1773. You can catch us on Rumble for the weekly show for the greatest podcast in all of human history. As always, David, I appreciate you most for your time. And I'll see everybody next time. Thank you.
We appreciate everyone. Appreciate
Buy
you,
the coffee,
Ryan.
Fleshlight, the bearskin Fleshlight coffee.
See,
I'm copy.
There's the supply, the food supply thing. There's that one.
Yeah,
what
no, buy
is
Don Jr.'s book. Buy
Don Jr.'s book was on there.
Yeah, the Fort Lauderdale Roofing Company.
Yeah. Fort Lauderdale Roofing Company. I don't even remember them. I'm the one who does them. Yeah, we appreciate everyone. We appreciate people in the chats. You, Buff Mike. Sorry, I think Ryan gave me your phone number. I forgot. You're coming on, Mike. Relax. Maybe
I actually said, Mike, you should be a guest host, and I'll watch and I'll comment.
Ryan's gonna just roll reverse. We're gonna have I think we gotta do the election too.
Yeah, live stream election
coverage. We gotta do the election.
As always, David.
Christian reached out. He wants to come on too. I said, "You're always welcome on, Christian."
Oh, I love this. We got to copy him in for the election. Yeah, David, as always, we will be there in real time to watch the graph defy all laws of mathematics, David.
How long are we going to do that for? Because
until I fall asleep. I don't know. I'll get a 30 pack if I got to.
The election.
Fucking flip the fuck out.
But the
it
thing
better
is,
not be as late as last time.
Well, hold on, because sometimes back in the day, this would have made more sense because the election used to be decided. For people who don't remember, people would go vote. And then that night or even early in the morning, sometimes if it really ran long, people would know who won, right? So now you don't know till weeks later. So we can't live stream for weeks.
Sure we can, David. That's that's how you have democracies. You can figure out a football game in one day. Your country just takes a week.
Look, I look like Ryan.
You can't see it yet. Still can't see it. Still can't see it. Still can't see it. Still can't. Oh, there it is.
Hey, what you drinking? IPA?
Just kidding.
Root beer. We're children, Ryan. Come on.
All right. Well, enjoy your chocolate milk. Until then, I'll catch you guys later. Love you a long time.
Thanks, everybody.
Hasta la vista.
I can't find the tickets that I want to buy.
Later, bro.
See ya.
I need your help.